The time has come, and it's time to look back at the whole year's worth of reading and decide what has been the most impactful books of 2023. Let's go! Hi and welcome to the BookLab. I'm Björn, and this is the place where we bring you the best book recommendations when it comes to philosophy, psychology, human nature and human potential every week. So make sure to like and subscribe, and whenever I put up a video, it will show up in your feed. In this video, I want to show 4 books that really stood out this year, and it's going to be a great mix of different topics, everything from biology to psychology, physics, and also timeless lessons about wealth creation and how to live the happy life. This year has been all about going back to the basics, and it has been a hell of a ride, so let's just jump right into it. Okay. And first out we have Determined by Robert M. Sapolsky, A Science of Life Without Free Will. If you followed this channel for a while, you know that I have put his previous book, Behave, but the biology of humans at our best and worst on my great books list. Now Sapolsky has published a new book, and it's a banger. It takes what Sapolsky started in Behave and takes it to its natural conclusion. Free will does not exist. In this book, Sapolsky takes each argument for free will and just dismantles it in a very organized and systematic and often entertaining fashion. This book meets all my criteria for what makes a great book. It asks hard and fundamental questions, and it has you re-evaluate the assumptions you make about human nature, and it also makes me slightly uncomfortable. This book also contains the main lessons from Behave, which makes this the go-to book for anyone who wants to maximize their learning about human biology and how it shapes human behavior, because you basically get 2 books in one. This book is not for everyone. It's a dense book for sure. Even if Sapolsky puts a lot of effort into making this book into something that a layperson can comprehend, there's still a lot about proteins and synapses and complex processes in this book, and there has to be, because without that context he wouldn't be able to drive the point home. Hey, sorry, my son needed help. I'll be back in a bit. Sorry about that. That was my son. He needed help, and family first. So we were talking about this book being quite complex, full of quite advanced biological stuff, basically. And the way I deal with this is that I usually get these books on Audible, so I listen to them as audiobooks, and when it gets too technical I kind of zoom out a little bit, and then I zoom back in when we get to the conclusions, the results of the experiments, and how they impact the human behavior. And there's a lot of good stuff in this one. The most thought-provoking parts of this book is the questions that you have to ask yourself, and the author also asks, if there is no free will, then how do we stay motivated? How should we treat criminals if people can't be held responsible for their actions? And how would people behave in a world where everyone is free of responsibility and accountability? These are the type of questions that are inevitable if you realize that there's no such thing as free will. This is a great book. You should definitely read it. Let's jump into the next book, and of course it's further down in this damn pile. Okay, all right. It's a thin one, and it's How to Break Free of the Drama Triangle and Victim Consciousness. I've had this book on my shelf for years. It was actually recommended to me from a bookish friend of mine from the Instagram community, and this person, she was actually so influenced by this book, and it had such a huge impact on her life that she actually had a TED talk about the drama triangle.
And you're probably thinking, what on earth is that? And I'm about to speak to you about that today, and I'm going to go on and talk about what each individual role means and how it is detrimental to you, your relationships, and everybody in your life.
This book is about transactional analysis, a method of therapy wherein social interactions are analyzed to determine the ego state of the communicator as a basis for understanding behavior. So basically, it looks at how we speak and respond to others and what roles we take on in social interactions. The field of transactional analysis was pioneered by Eric Bernet, and he wrote a famous book called Games People Play that I actually reviewed on this channel. And in Games People Play, he dissects the most common games that people play with each other during social interactions and in intimate relationships. And they also often have quite funny names like "Let's pull a fast one on Joey," "See what you made me do," "You got me into this," "Look how hard I tried," "I'm only trying to help you," "Let you and him fight." Social games is basically about getting your needs met without communicating that need directly. It's about indirect communication that is often very toxic and dysfunctional. This book focuses on one game in particular, and that's the drama triangle. And that's a game you see everywhere. We see it in TV dramas, we see it in families, we see it at work, in the workplace, we see it within, well, it's basically everywhere. I go much deeper into what a drama triangle is in my review of the book, but you can view it as a map of dysfunctional interactions between people. Imagine a triangle and each corner has one role. We have the victim, we have the prosecutor, and we have the rescuer. So what are these labels? The victim is, "Oh, poor me, I'm the victim." The prosecutor is, it's saying it's all your fault. And the rescuer is trying to save everyone. "I'm gonna save you." The tricky part is that during the drama triangle, anyone who participates can change their role at any time. It's like a not so much fun merry-go-round of blame, pity, and unnecessary heroics. And each of the players has the shared ultimate goal of becoming the victim, because that's the position where you can blame everything on external consequences. If you have tried to read Eric Bernay's book Games People Played and found it a bit too hard and too complex, then this is a great alternative. It's a much easier starting point for transactional analysis. And if you are a person that tend to find yourself in a roller coaster ride of drama and conflict in all your relationships, then this is a book that will help you guide you out of it, who will help you break free from this loop that tends just to go on and on. I believe that if you want to live a good and true life, then you have to be able to communicate your needs directly. And one way to do that is to break free from dysfunctional and toxic communication patterns that you might have learned in childhood that is not serving you anymore. I really appreciated reading this book and I learned a lot. We have 2 more books to cover and I'm going to try to find the next one, but I'll take the opportunity to say that if you like the content on this channel, then like and subscribe, and if you really want to support and help me evolve this channel, then send me a donation through Supers, Patreon or PayPal. This is of course voluntary, but it will help me just level up and evolve the BookLab. Next book that I have, is the Almanack of Naval, Ravikant. I rejected this book as another run-of-the-mill self-help book when it first came out, but when my buddy Tomer from Patreon started talking about Naval and this book, I got interested in it again and I finally picked it up, and oh boy am I glad I did. The book is a collection of texts from angel investor and entrepreneur and philosopher Naval Ravikant, and it's focused on wealth and happiness. The strength of the book is how Naval is able to boil down timeless truths into simple blueprints for how to build wealth and find peace and happiness. I love the way Naval thinks and communicates this idea. It's very elegant. I find myself repeating the maxims that I learned from this book in my head throughout my everyday life. It is also the book that affected my reading list this year the most. I got so many books thanks to this one, and it also shifted my focus for the whole year because I started to study more fundamental things. It talks a lot about learning the fundamentals, learning about maths, learning about physics, learning about the timeless truths that have stayed true for a long while. And it's got me to pick up a bunch of books like The Beginning of Infinity by David Deutsch, The Rational Optimist, The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith, Richard Feynman's 6 Easy Pieces, Essentials of Physics Explained by its Most Brilliant Teacher, and also another Nassim Taleb book, Skin in the Game, just to name a few of the books that I picked up only because of this book. I have already read this book 2 times. I started to reread it right after I finished it, which is not common. I have to say, if you're interested in a tried and true way towards economic independence and just sustainable happiness, then this is a great companion on your journey. The Almanack of Naval, Ravikant, one of the best books I've read this year. Which brings me to the next book on the list and the final one, and it's David Deutsch's The Beginning of Infinity, Explanations that Transform the World. David Deutsch argues that explanation has a fundamental place in the universe and that improving them is the basic regulating principle of all successful human endeavor. The Beginning of Infinity covers a wide range of topics from science to human nature to the potential of human progress. David Deutsch is a physicist, he's a philosopher, and he's a pioneer within quantum computing. In The Beginning of Infinity, David Deutsch dwells into the fundamental principles that underpin our understanding of the universe and explores the boundaries of human knowledge. Books like The Beginning of Infinity is the reason why I keep reading. Even though the book was slow to start, once I started to grasp the major concepts of the books, I realized that I had a great book in my hands. And like so many books this year, this one was inspired by Naval's reading list. And I have to agree with the tweet that got me inspired to read this book, that this is a book that you need to read more than once in order to understand and grasp the concepts fully. And once you start to understand, you will have to reorganize your thinking. I found this snippet of Naval talking about this book in a way that I think will convince you to pick it up.
A couple of years back, that I reopened an old book, which I had read, or I thought I'd read about a decade ago, called The Beginning of Infinity. Sometimes you read a book and it makes a difference right away. Sometimes you read a book and you don't understand it, then you read it later at the right time and it makes a difference. This time, when I reopened this book and I went through it much more carefully than I had in the past, meticulously, rather than reading it to read it and to say I was done reading it, I read it to understand the concepts and the topics and stopped at every point where something was new. It completely started reforming my worldview. It changed the way I think, and I would credit this book as being probably the only book in the last decade, except maybe a few of Nassim Taleb's works and maybe one or two other scattered, books that I feel made me smarter. They literally expanded the way that I think. They expanded not just the repertoire of my knowledge, but the repertoire of my reasoning. People throw around words like mental models a lot, and I find most mental models not worth reading or thinking about or listening to because I find them trivial. However, the mental models that came out of The Beginning of Infinity are transformational because they very convincingly completely change the way that you look at what is true and what is not.
If that doesn't sell you on the book, then I don't know what will. This was a challenging book for sure, and I will reread it very soon just to further my understanding in all the great concepts that David Deutsch presents in this book. I'm so happy that I put the effort in and finished it, because it's books like these that keep me going. As usual, I have a full review of, I think, all the books on this list. I'm releasing my determined review next week or so. So you should find links to all these books in the description below. 2023 has been a great reading year, and I have no doubt 2024 will be even better. What was the best book that you read this year? I would love to hear that, so please list your favorite books down in the comments, because I'm gonna look through it. I'm gonna put some of them on my reading list for next year. And speaking of reading lists, I have a video for how you can create your own reading list if you're struggling with that, and where I show my process. And I'm currently making my list for next year with all the themes, all the reading goals that I have, and I'm looking forward to present that in a week or two. And we also have the determined review. We have, hello? There was my son again. And we also have the upcoming January releases. So I'm going to put out the list of the most exciting January books to start off the year with. So happy reading, everyone. Happy holidays. I hope you got excited by at least one of these books. I recommend all of them. I don't have a favorite. These are just all great books. Thanks for tuning into the BookLab this year. I love you guys, and see you next year. And I'm just looking forward to everything that we will explore together. Take care. Björn out.